Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the June 25th, 2025 regular meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission for the City of Thousand Oaks. Please join me as we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vasquez, can you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Emel,
Present.
Commissioner Guerra.
Here.
Commissioner Selm,
Here.
Commissioner Weichel. Here. Chair Callahan is absent.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Can we please make the public comments announcement now?
Yes. This is the time and place for public comments. Registration for public comments is available for those wishing to address the Traffic Commission regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for specific agenda items shall be called and heard during that specific item. All remarks should be addressed to the Traffic Commission as a whole. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the Traffic Commission unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city engineer for administrative follow-up. No individuals have requested to speak, and no written statements for public comments have been submitted. Also, please silence all cell phones during the meeting and remember to mute your microphones when you are not speaking.
Okay, thank you. So with no public speakers, we can move on to item number 5 in our agenda, which is our summary notes from May 28th, 2025. Are there any comments on the summary notes? Okay, Commissioner Selm.
Yeah, I'm not sure who to direct this to, but I just want to say I appreciate staff's response to the question that I made last time about what gets in the summary notes and what gets in the minutes. So thank you for that. I just want to follow up for more clarification around exactly what does get in, because I did notice like the engineer reports, there's not, that's not captured, the feedback and the questions that the commissioners had. So if someone could maybe address like what it is that gets in the minutes and what isn't, just so that I'm kind of aware of who all sees that. Thank you.
Would staff like to respond?
Yes, sure. Good evening, Commissioners. Nader Haidari, Public Works Director. The generally, and I think as we had expressed, the notes in the meetings typically are focused on action items and decisions that were made by the commissioners, as opposed to maybe discussions that were had along the way to that decision. The meetings are recorded, and so the full transcript of each meeting is available for anybody who wishes to, understand that additional granular detail of those discussions. Those items, I think, at the last meeting weren't action items or votes, so maybe that's why there's somewhat limited explanation of those items in the agenda. I don't know if Noel, you have any other color to add to that?
Thank you.
No, just there's a guideline book for all the commissions at the city, and so there's guidelines for those minutes. I don't know if that document was provided to the commissioners. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to review that document, but what is included and what isn't included is kind of outlined there. Granted, it's not a full detail in that document, but that's generally what is in there and what's not in there.
Thank you. I'll take a look at that. Appreciate it.
Okay. Just one further comment on that subject, though. The record for our meetings is posted on the city's website, right? So we have the agenda posted. We have the packet of materials that all the commissioners get with the documents. That's posted on the website. And then, of course, we have the public broadcast, right? And which is, I believe, is posted on YouTube. So we do have a record, a complete record that anybody can find at any time. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the commissioners? Okay. Seeing no comments, we'll move on to item number 6 in the agenda, which is our engineers' reports. And tonight we have 2 engineers' reports that are both going to be presented by Engineering Associate Bradley Ackert. And before we proceed with Mr. Ackert's reports, I think it's probably a good idea to clarify what the commission's role is on these items. These 2 items are information items, and so they are only being provided to the commission in the interest of transparency and to facilitate a discussion on the subjects which are included in the reports. And to, of course, get public comment on these items if there are any. So accordingly, there will be no vote or recommendation or motion necessary by the commission to act on these reports because, again, these are simply informational items only. So with that being said, Mr. Ackert, if you'd like to proceed with your first report.
Thank you, Commissioner Immel, and good evening. My name is Bradley Ackert, and tonight I'm going to be discussing the traffic signal installation priorities. I'd like to start off by giving you an overview of the signals. Currently, there are 136 city-maintained signals. To install a new signal, it costs about $50,000 for design, and the construction cost is about $500,000. It also costs about $3,000 to maintain each traffic signal per year. All right. So how does an intersection qualify for a traffic signal? The California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, CAMUTCD, has established numerical warrants that must be met to qualify. Here's a list of the 9 different warrants established by CAMUTCD. The warrant that the Public Works Division focuses on is Warrant 1, which looks at the 8-hour vehicle volume at an intersection. Warrant 1 is split into 3 parts: Condition A, Condition B, and a combination of Condition A and B. An intersection only needs to meet one part of Warrant 1 to qualify for a signal. Warrant 1 is the most commonly used warrant. Warrants 2 through 9 are used in special circumstances. An important thing that I want to mention is that CAMUTCD also states that satisfaction of a traffic signal warrant or warrants itself shall not itself require the installation of a traffic signal. All right, so let's dive into warrant number 1. Here are the minimum volumes for Condition A. The volumes depend on the lane configuration and whether the road is classified as urban or rural. These minimum volumes must be met for each of the 8 hours. Here are the minimum volumes for Condition B. The interruption of continuous traffic is a situation where the major street is so busy that there are not sufficient gaps in traffic for the minor street to enter. The minimum volumes for Condition B are much higher for the major street to reflect that condition. The combination warrant looks at 80% of the volumes established in Conditions A and B. If 80% of the minimum volumes are met for each of the 8 hours in Conditions A and B, and other alternatives to reduce traffic delays have failed, then the intersection qualifies. After we compare the minimum values, we check the collision history at the intersection. We review the previous 36 months of collision data and determine the highest number of correctable collisions in a continuous 12-month period. A collision is considered correctable if it could have been avoided with the installation of a traffic control device, like a stop sign or a traffic signal. Not all collisions are correctable, so I'd like to give you some examples of correctable and non-correctable collisions. Approach, turn, and right angle collisions are the only types that are correctable. Two types of non-correctable collisions are rear ends and hit object. Another example of a non-correctable collision would be one that's caused by a driver driving under the influence. So no two intersections that meet the warrant are equal, so we developed a points procedure to help create a traffic signal priority list. Points are earned for meeting each condition of the warrant, along with collision history and other considerations. I want to provide you with a points breakdown for condition A and condition B. 15 points can be earned for meeting the warrant, and an additional 5 points can be earned if the average volumes exceed 200% of the minimum volume. For the combination warrant, 10 points are earned for meeting 80% of the minimum volumes in condition A and B. For the collision history, 4 points are earned for each correctable collision in the highest 12-month period over the past 36 months. Other considerations include sight distance and engineering judgment. There are a total of 10 points that can be earned in the other considerations. Now I know this is probably confusing, and it's going to be a lot easier if we do an example. So here's the traffic data for the intersection of Urbs Road and Sunset Hills Boulevard. For this intersection, Urbs Road is the major street and Sunset Hills Boulevard is the minor street. We are looking at the highest combined 8 hours for Urbs Road, and then we select the corresponding 8 hours for the higher leg of Sunset Hills Boulevard. Once we have our volumes, which are highlighted on the screen, we need to figure out what the minimum volumes are going to be. So Urbs Road and Sunset Hills Boulevard each have 2 or more approach lanes and are considered rural since the speed limit on Urbs Road is greater than 40 miles an hour. The minimum volumes for Urbs Road are going to be 420 vehicles per hour and 140 per hour for Sunset Hills Boulevard. If we compare the volumes with our highest 8 hours, we see that this intersection meets condition A. Now let's get our minimum volumes for condition B. For 2 or more approach lanes on a rural road, the minimum volumes are going to be 630 for Urbs Road and 70 for Sunset Hills Boulevard. Comparing these with our highest 8 hours, we see the intersection does not meet condition B. Urbs Road does not meet the minimum volumes for hours 1, 3, or 8. When we look at combination of A and B, 80% of the minimum volumes are not met in condition B, so the intersection does not meet the combination warrant. There were 2 correctable collisions, bringing the intersection total to 28 points. This is the new signal priority list. 12 intersections met the warrant, with Avenida de los Arboles at Avenida de las Plantas at the top of the list. This is the same top location as our previous list. The construction of this traffic signal has been included in the new budget. This project aims to benefit and improve mobility for all road users, including pedestrians and bicycles. This capital improvement project will be placed on a future TTAC meeting agenda to provide the community with an opportunity to provide input on this project, and preliminary design details regarding the intersection will be presented. I want to give you some additional info and the next steps. We're currently monitoring 23 intersections. 12 of those intersections currently meet the warrant, and 11 do not. We'll continue to monitor the traffic volumes and collisions at these intersections. And the plan is to count again and repeat this process by 2027. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Before we open up to questions, do we have any speakers on this item, Ms. Vasquez?
No speakers on this item.
Okay. So no speakers. Does the commission have any questions for staff? And Mr. Ackert, thank you very much for the report. That's a lot of information, and you delivered it very well. Commissioners, do we have any questions?
Yes.
Okay. We have Commissioner Guerra.
Thank you so much. I actually drove down to Arboles and Las Plantas, and I was pleasantly surprised because that is when we were looking at the crossing guard, that is one that's going to be eliminated. So to put a traffic signal there would be like easing my mind. And I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that that spot is dangerous. You have a strip mall, you have a gas station, so that is definitely needed there. And now with the traffic light, it does ease my mind, but I'm concerned, when is this going to be implemented?
So this is part of the 2025-2026 budget, which starts on July 1st.
And I can, I guess, provide a little more detail on that. Yeah, this is a new project that City Council just included and approved as in their capital improvement budget that was adopted on June 10th. And so the first step of the process would be to do some preliminary design, have the public outreach to make sure there's consensus and buy-in from the community. And then we would start the actual final design and engineering work. That probably takes 3 to 6 months to complete, and then construction would be anticipated to start in 2026 if we're in good shape, and be completed in 2027. The lead time for traffic signal poles just by themselves can be upwards of 9 months. So, yeah.
So another 2 years.
Yeah, I would say approximately 2027. Yep, which is the average time for a large $500,000 or more capital project, especially one with the equipment and all the other components of this this nature.
I do. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Because it doesn't really ease my mind. I mean, eventually there will be a light there, but in the meantime, there's no crossing guard in a very busy intersection based upon this information. So I'm very familiar with Urbs in Pedersen and Urbs in Sunset Hills. And I'm just wondering, some of the information that you have here really doesn't contain the topography, because I can understand that there isn't, like on Urbs and Sunset Hills, it doesn't fulfill, the top, information or that you're looking for to make that decision. But there's a park, there's a church, there's a preschool, all in that intersection. And when you're coming down Sunset Hills, there is a gated community of I don't know how many residents that are coming down that hill. There's also an entrance and an exit on the 23 freeway. So I'm just wondering, do you just look at the base numbers, or do you look at the topography of, and what I mean by topography, maybe I'm using the wrong word, but all of the distractions that can cause accidents? Because I know within the last month, there have been 2 collisions in that intersection. And I was just driving down Urbs today, and there was another collision off from Urbs, from Pedersen to following to Urbs. So there's a lot of distractions in that intersection going all the way down to Arbalest. So do you factor that in, or are you just counting cars going up and down?
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're taking all that into consideration. The warrants, so warrant 1, the different combination of A, B, and combination are just looking at numbers. But when we look at the collision history, we're looking at the correctable collisions, to your point, how many there are, how frequent they are they correctable, are they not? And then the other thing was the other considerations, the engineering judgment. We're looking at sight distance is a big one. Visibility at the intersection, approaching the intersection, everything like that.
Bradley, a quick question.
Yes, that's correct. So the big difference is speed limit. That's what establishes urban versus rural. Anything over 40 miles an hour is going to be considered rural. So Urbs roads of 45. I think it's going to be more rural than urban, because like Westlake Boulevard's going to be rural. Urbs Road, a couple locations is going to be rural. No, it's looking like a pretty even split. You're right.
Okay.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have any additional questions? Okay, Commissioner Selm.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. One is maybe not so much a question, more of just a highlight for us to make sure that the package is complete. That I was like trying to understand the vehicles per hour for A and B, and it says refer to table 4C1, and I just didn't see that in the packet. So not a big deal. You shared with us on the screen, and so I got to see it there, but I just wanted to call that out that maybe I'm missing something, but I didn't see it in the packet. And then I have another question about the methodology for measuring the traffic. How do you guys typically do that? I mean, are you standing out there just counting? Are you using cameras, or like what's the method for that?
We hired a consulting company that they're doing it two different ways. They're laying road tubes, those physical hoses in the street that you run over, that are counting vehicles, and they're also using cameras that they can mount near the intersection, and they use AI to get all the movements and count all the cars that way.
Is that how collisions are counted too, or is that based on like police reports or?
No, collisions are based on police reports that get funneled down to us, and then we file them, and we have a database that we're checking and to see all the reported collisions. We don't have access to non-reported collisions.
Okay, thank you for that.
Out of curiosity, what's the average lifespan of a traffic signal? Is it 30 years? Or what's the replacement looking like on that? And how long is that annual maintenance of $3,000 usually go on for?
Yeah, good evening. I'm Robert Sweeting. So we still have a lot of signals that were built back in the 70s that are still standing, Arbalest and Moore Park being one of them. So they last almost indefinitely until we need to either upgrade, modify in some format, and then we have to put them into the new standards. But right now we've got some that are 50 plus years old. Cabinets have to be changed out about every 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Are they ever removed? I mean, seldom, I would think, right?
Very seldom. I can't think of any in the last 30 years that we've actually removed a traffic signal.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions of staff? I have just one, and it may go down in history as the lamest question that the commission has ever asked. But attachment 2 is the MUTCD, right? That we were copied with a excerpt from the manual, and it says what does it say? 2014 edition, revision 9. But we're looking at the current iteration of the MUTCD, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So it started out with the 2014 edition, and then if you look at the front page, it says revision 9.
Yeah.
So they've been revised. It's been revised 9 times since 2014.
So did they tell you when the last revision was? Because as you make your way through it, down at the bottom right corner, it says November 7, 2014. I mean, anybody could easily look at this and think we're looking at something from, 11 years ago or so.
When you go look at the Caltrans website, they give you the dates. This one came out April 1st, 2025, and revision 8 came out, I think it was either January or February 2024. So it's about every year.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Appreciate that. I think we've already established we have no public speakers on this item, right, Ms. Vasquez?
Correct.
Okay, so then I'm going to close this item now to public comment and open this item up to discussion among the commissioners. Do we have any need for further discussion?
I have one comment.
Sure.
I thought that was a
Weichel.
great question.
Yeah. Got to cover your bases. Just, you never know. But thank you. Okay, so we are now moving on. There's no action required on item 6A. So, Mr. Ackert, can we please move ahead to your report on item 6B?
Thank you and good evening. My name is Bradley Ackert, and tonight I want to provide you with some information on a project coming down the pipeline. CI 5548 includes the installation of 17 new radar feedback signs throughout the city. First, I want to give you some background information on how we got to this point. We approved and adopted a local road safety plan back in 2021. A local road safety plan, or LRSP, is a plan developed by a consultant to improve commuter, bicycle, and pedestrian safety citywide. They do this by analyzing all the traffic collisions and determine which safety improvements would benefit the city. So this process is data-driven. One project identified in the LRSP is to install 17 radar feedback signs at specific locations. These locations were chosen by the consultant because of the high number of unsafe speed and rear-end collisions. Just to refresh your memory, other projects identified in the LRSP that have been completed are the yellow traffic signal backplates and the marked crosswalk upgrades where we installed the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Adopting a local road safety plan also allowed us to apply for highway safety improvement grants. The Highway Safety Improvement Program is administered by Caltrans. The purpose is to achieve a significant reduction in traffic fatalities and serious injuries on all public roads. The Traffic Division applied for an HSIP grant to install the 17 radar feedback signs, and their project was approved for funding by Caltrans. I wanted to show you some examples of existing radar feedback signs throughout the city, because I'm sure you've already seen them around town. This radar feedback sign is installed on Hendricks Avenue. These units are solar powered, display the posted speed limit as well as the driver's current speed. This helps drivers better gauge their speed in relation to the posted speed limit and adjust accordingly. These signs are being installed to help calm traffic speeds, which in turn helps reduce our collision rates. They have been effective, and they are one of the most requested devices we receive from the public. This is another unit that I'm sure you've noticed around town. This is installed on Lynn Road. I want to show you a map of the proposed locations. I say proposed locations because we are still in the design phase and some changes may still occur. The local road safety plan identified locations with the most collisions, highest speed limits, and highest traffic volumes. Some of these streets are Hillcrest Drive, Lynn Road, and Westlake Boulevard. I want to provide you with a tentative schedule moving forward. As I said, we're currently in the design phase and planning to advertise for construction bids this fall. We are also anticipating having the contract approved by the City Council in the fall as well. This allows construction to begin in winter 2026 and the project also completing in winter 2026. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Mr. Ackert, thank you very much for the report. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Oh, Commissioner Selm?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I love traffic calming measures. I think this is awesome. I mean, TO is not, I think it has a walk score rating in the 30s, according to walk score, which means that it's car dependent. And, you know, we all know this. We live here. Like, it's not the most walkable place. And making it more walkable means making it safer, which ultimately means reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving quality of life and health. So I'm just saying things we all know, but I'm just letting you know that's why I'm really feel very positive about this item. I'm super excited for it. So thank you for bringing it to us. I do have some questions just out of curiosity. I got kind of deep in the weeds and started reading the traffic calming guide from DOT, and they have a recommendation that these measures should be on single lane roads. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, and if there's, just curious what your thoughts are. That's my first question. And then if I could make another one, Chair, later on. Thank you.
From the trainings and education that I've received on them, as long as you give them, the drivers, enough sight distance to see it and actually react to it and not just drive by it and say, what was that? And they can actually see it, they're still effective.
Thank you. What if there's two cars like going at the same time? How does it choose like which one to flag?
So the units are using radar, which generally is going to take the bigger vehicle, the larger mass.
Okay, Thank you for that. I'm also curious, placing these radar feedback signs, are you going to do any kind of follow-up to like see if it is reducing rear-end collisions, and if not, like other traffic calming measures, or what's the sort of like data collection post-installation?
So when we set a speed limit, we have to do a radar survey of 100 free-flowing vehicles. And then we round to the nearest 5 miles an hour, and that's generally how a speed limit is set. When we're going out to do these radar surveys after these units have been installed, we see our 85th percentile speed, which is the number we're looking at, generally decreases by 2 or 3 miles an hour. So we expect it to decrease 2 or 3 miles an hour, and then when we do our radar surveys, we'll confirm that or not, and then see what other improvements could be made.
Quick
Thank
question.
you.
Bradley, is there any data capture on the radar speeds in these units?
Yeah, so it's connected to a cloud, and I think we have a certain amount of time, like maybe a month or two of data, so we can actually check when we do get requests, speed limit requests, things like that, and they're near one of the units, we can check and see the high speeds, the times of day, so we can help PD. Oh, they're out there at 4 o'clock, or they're out there at 8 a.m. So they do record the data. It's not available for the public, but we're checking it,
Right.
and if we do get a request, we have access to it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Guerra.
Thank you so much for the report. So the project would be to install all 17 at the same time, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then you said that it does help with traffic as far as feedback, that it does reduce, or it allows people to kind of, hone in on the fact that they're going over the speed limit. Do you see from this time, I don't know if you have that information, from the time that this is installed to maybe a year later, do you see that people are monitoring their speed limit more? I mean, do you see an anecdotal or statistical result from doing that?
As I mentioned, the only thing we'll see is the 85th percentile speed, and we do the radar surveys once every 7 years, so it's not like we're out there every other year. But when we're out there doing the surveys, the numbers are decreasing. When we put them on other streets, the speeds have gone down.
I just have one more question, and this may be a really dumb one, but what makes why there's different criteria for a traffic light and then this radar feedback sign. So is there ever a chance that you could install a radar feedback sign, given the fact that the traffic lights take so long to have implemented, to help with reduction of collision and traffic in the area?
These are kind of two independent things.
Okay.
So
they can't work, you can't substitute it, in other words, because it takes so long.
No, so to your question about this traffic signal, there's clear warrants in place. CAMETCD has warrants. We've adopted this policy. As far as the radar feedback signs, we haven't adopted a city policy or a priority list, so we're only going off of grant money. We're not using public funds for it yet. That's why we're relying on these HSIP grants, and that's why we adopted the local road safety plan.
And I would add that the signals are for intersections versus generally these radar feedback signs are for mid-block between intersections where people's speeds may tend to be higher.
I was just trying to think outside the box because it takes so long for the traffic signals, specifically where I live at the corner on Herbs and Sunset Hills. We've been waiting for that traffic light forever. So I'm just wondering, would there have been another opportunity to work at, looking at something else as a measure?
Well, in this case, both Herbs and Pedersen, Herbs and Sunset that were at the top of the list have controls. They have stop controls. So it really wouldn't be necessary implementation for radar feedback that is more at mid-block. You've already got a control device.
agreed, but people roll over those stop signs. So, sorry.
Understood, but that's where enforcement comes in, our law enforcement.
I have just one question. It's really a point of clarification. So I always understood that the speed limit is a function of a speed survey, right? It is the 85th percentile of speed. But these radar feedback signs are not a substitute for the speed survey. So in other words, the data collected by these radar feedback signs is not a substitute for, conducting the speed survey, right?
You are correct. The only way we're conducting the radar surveys is a staff member is in the field with a radar device.
And you said, I think you said speed surveys conducted every 7 years? Do we know? Like when's the next, is it a citywide speed survey, or like how do you pick which streets you're going to conduct a speed survey on?
That's a great question. It's actually all broken down in the municipal code. They're broken down by stretch. So like even Herbs Road isn't one entire stretch. It'll be between Olson and McRae or Sunset. That'll be a stretch. And then there'll be there's like 3 or 4 stretches between Olson and Hillcrest or Thousand Oaks Boulevard on Herbs Road.
Okay.
So I'd have to look on a specific stretch and see when.
So we don't know when the speed survey is coming up, let's say for like that stretch of Lynn where a radar feedback sign is going to go up.
Correct.
So we don't know that.
Well, we do. We
know
do
it, I just
know
don't have it
that.
here.
But we
Yeah,
just
we
don't know
doesn't
it.
have the information right here, but we're doing them every 7 years. I personally go out and do those radars, and we have when they expire because we didn't do all. Let's say we must have 300 segments throughout the city, so we don't do all in 1 year. They get broken up. We're doing 30 to 50 a year, and then that's what goes to council if they've changed. For the implementation of those.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we're not doing them all in 1 year. So, but we do have it all broken down. Like currently I've been out at Lynn and Wendy, Lynn and Reno, just in the past 2 weeks doing those out there.
Oh, speed surveys out
Uh-huh.
there?
Yeah, and I just did one over at Lindero in Rockfield. So it's all over the city based on when they expire.
That's good to know. I know for residents who are concerned with speed, they view the speed survey as the ticket to get the speed limit reduced. But it can always backfire because if you go out there and take the speed survey and people are, going above the speed limit, then the 85th percentile is greater than what the current speed limit is, and it can result in the increase in the speed limit. But if you have a traffic calming device like a radar feedback sign go up before the speed survey is taken, at least then I think you've built in some time to have the speed come back down and maintain, or I guess possibly even lower the speed limit in that particular area.
That is correct. And we also do them in non-peak hours. So it's normally somewhere between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So, that's just when the general public, because it can be influenced as how you're going down Thousand Oaks Boulevard where it's heavy. The volumes are not the volumes, but the speeds are not as great as they would be in other non-peak periods.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we're looking at doing those surveys. But you are correct. They could be influenced by somebody driving at a high rate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to have that information. Do the commissioners have any other questions for staff? Commissioner Weichel.
Thank you. So much has been discussed on crossing guards and, protecting children, schools. These radar feedback signs, points of interest, are they close by schools, or is it more wide open areas that you're concerned about speed and crashes?
It's more wide open areas where the speeds are the highest, and it's where we had the most rear end collisions and unsafe speed collisions.
Okay. Without any further questions from the commission, Ms. Vasquez, do we have any public speakers on this item?
Chair, we have no public speakers, and just to comment, Staff received one written email for this item, which was provided to the commission for their review prior to this meeting and has been added to the record.
Okay, I think we all have received our copy of that email. But with no public speakers, I'm going to go ahead and close this item now to public comments and open it up to discussion among the commissioners. Do the commissioners wish to have further discussion on this item? Commissioner Selm?
Just a quick comment that I really appreciate the education. I feel like I've just learned a lot, and I also want to commend you for a great question, Chair Immel. That really helped me kind of understand how speed is set, so thank you.
All right, thank you for that. One item of discussion that I wanted to raise was actually in the email that we did receive from Jack Bernard. He was complimentary of the implementation of the radar feedback signs, but he did raise a concern about where the radar's feedback signs are actually installed, and he raised a concern about not wanting to see the radar feedback signs installed like in a public right-of-way, especially on a sidewalk, right? Because he was afraid that that would reduce pedestrian right-of-way and ingress and egress, and I guess I understand that concern because things can get tight when you have bikes and pedestrians, but based on the photos that I've seen, I see the radar feedback signs in green belts, and I see them in the center median. And Mr. Ackert, maybe you can speak to that.
Yes, absolutely. So generally, we're trying to put them in the medians. Most of the streets that were identified in the LRSP are high-speed streets with a curb median, plenty of places to put them. The main concern that we have is that they're solar-powered. We don't want to put them under a tree. And then, as I mentioned, the sight distance. These things need to be seen from 800 feet away. So it needs to be in a spot where it's going to charge, it's going to get sufficient light, and drivers are going to be able to see it so it's effective. But yes, ADA access won't be affected. We're going to be in the center curb median as much as possible. And even if we do end up on the sidewalk, there will be ADA access.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Commissioners, any other points of discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Again, this was just an informational item for which we don't have to take any any action on, no vote, no recommendation or anything like that. So we can now go ahead and, well, I'll just say, Mr. Ackert, thank you for the presentation. Well done. We can now move on to item number 7, which is the status report of prior traffic commission recommendations. And it looks like the school crossing guard program, which was reviewed by the commission on May 28, 2025, will be returning to the city council for an update. The staff report will include overall comments received from the commission, summary of discussions held with the Conejo Valley Unified School District regarding the program, and anticipated steps moving forward with the program. Is there anything that the commissioners would like to discuss about that particular item?
Yes.
Commissioner Guerra, go ahead.
So I'm under the impression that is there going to be a report today that you're presenting to the commission, or what is it that we're actually doing on this item?
Yeah, this item is primarily intended to just provide a brief summary or kind of a verbal update to the commission of prior items that have come to the Traffic Commission, just to keep you apprised of those items and where they currently stand. So that's basically, this was encapsulated in that one, few sentences there, that this item went to the Traffic Commission, and as discussed earlier and as indicated on here, it's going to the City Council for a follow-up discussion with the City Council on July 8th. When it went to City Council on May 20th, they had directed staff to engage with the Conejo Valley Unified School District on potential future options of the oversight of the program in the future. So that's what the update that will be going back to Council on July 8th will include. that report has not been written or finalized, so there's nothing to share with the commission at this point.
There's nothing here in these two sentences, right?
Yeah, those sentences say that the update is that it will be going to City Council on July 8th.
Okay, but we don't know what's going to be in that report. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we don't know, you're not going to provide us with that report prior to the city council meeting, so we don't know what kind of comments are going to be included in that report from us. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, what our goal is going to be is to capture the overall themes and discussions from the Traffic Commission meeting, the feedback basically that we received, and that will therefore provide the City Council, in addition to obviously the video transcript they have from the meeting. But the item, as you recall, was an information meeting for the Traffic Commission, and it was to receive public input. I don't believe any public members came to the meeting and provided any input, but the commissioners had some discussion. So we will briefly summarize that. It's not going to be an exhaustive list of everything each commissioner said. As mentioned earlier, that's not how the City Council agendas are done or the reports are done, because the full transcript is available. So yeah.
I am concerned that comments, that I don't have access to those comments or what's in the report before it's sent to or presented to City Council. Is there any way that we could get a copy of that, or at least have access to that before City Council actually sees it?
The practice, and Noel can explain, is that the City Council, people aren't to receive reports of the City Council prior to the City Council receiving them. So everybody receives those reports at the same time, and I think maybe you can provide more detail.
Yeah, pursuant to the Brown Act, the documents related to that agenda item will be released to the public and the City Council at the same time.
Okay. I understand that, but I think that if there's a report that is going to be presented to City Council with comments that were made here, that we should have access to understanding what's contained in that. And so you're saying that we can't have access to that because it's a violation of the Brown Act?
So a couple things there. I mean, generally speaking, yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the documents contained in that report are going to be released to the council members and the public at the same time. But just to take a step back, the City Council provided direction to staff to meet with the school district, and staff is bringing their report back to the City Council. So generally speaking, it doesn't relate to the comments that were made here. I mean, they may be included in the report because, you know, as background, but the crux of the update relates to direction that the City Council gave staff.
Okay. I'm not happy about that, but that's the way it was decided upon. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further comments from the commissioners or questions? Commissioner Weichel.
Thank you for that explanation. With school coming up, you know, in September, do you think that City Council, working with Public Works and the team here, will come to a decision prior to school starting?
Yeah, I can't speak for the City Council, but that's the that's been the goal, and that's why the item is going at the next council meeting on July 8th, so that any modifications that may be made to the program or the implementation of the program per the policy, which the existing policy, which is currently at hand, can be clarified, and we can proceed forward to make any recommendations by the City Council to be implemented before the start of the school year. That is correct.
Okay, moving on to item number 8 in our agenda, commission referrals. There are none. Item number 9, work program and commission schedule. Commissioners have any questions for staff regarding our work schedule? Commissioner Selm.
I have a question about the next TTAC meeting will be on September 24th. So I'm just curious how this relates to some of our work program regarding items that we'll be hearing in the summer.
So we haven't formally canceled the meetings for July or August, even though I believe all city commissions are effectively shut down in August. But I think we can get to Commissioner Selm's question in item number 11, right? When we have discussion about future meetings.
Yeah, that's correct. The item 11 contemplates canceling the July 23rd meeting, and my understanding, and staff can tell me if I'm wrong, is that we don't have any anticipated items for that meeting.
Okay.
So the thought is that we would cancel that meeting, and like you said, the city's dark in August, so the next scheduled regular meeting wouldn't be until September 24th.
Okay.
Can I-
Apologies for jumping ahead.
No, not at all. No, it's it's perfectly legitimate question. Commissioner Guerra.
So, this is only my third meeting, and I don't know how the workflow is, but if we want to tackle some of these issues, I'm not understanding why we keep canceling meetings. So, I mean, I don't want to put a crimp in anybody's summer vacation, but I'm here. I was appointed to be here, and I'd like to, tackle especially the active transportation plan. So, and then there's the general plan mobility element, and you have speed limit revisions. I'd like to really move forward on those. So I don't know if it's just because there's not time to put together a report or what it is. And as I said before, I don't want to put a crimp if everybody has plans for vacation. I'm all for it. But I just wasn't expecting that there would be so many cancellation of meetings. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I can maybe speak to that a little bit. One of the efforts we've been doing is to try to avoid having meetings for like one topic, and instead having maybe waiting a month and bundling and have a couple 3 topics and having a little more engagement and maybe a more opportunity for a more comprehensive meeting instead of having like 20-minute meetings. So that's been one effort. Also, in the past 10 years, probably the commissions, because of that and because of the waiting until items are sufficiently ready to be evaluated and analyzed, the commission's probably been meeting on a quarterly basis. It's no different than the Planning Commission, which is also only meets when there's items and projects that are ready to be reviewed. It's a little bit different than the City Council, which has the regular meetings every 2 weeks, and they meet regardless. So we want to make sure there's enough business items and agenda items. For instance, that ATP study, I don't think it's at a point where it's ready to be reviewed next month. It's still in the drafting phase. So that's why a lot of these, actually none of them say summer only. The top 3 ones say summer/fall. So they're basically, we want to review them at some point, late summer, early fall, which is September 24th, I think, is 3 days into past summer. So that's still within the realm of that period of time. The second item, the overview of the new general plan mobility element, is just an educational piece. That piece has already been adopted in the new general plan. There's no changes being made to it. It's just basically providing an overview to the commissioners about what that item is and kind of learning a little bit more about that. So that's basically the again the effort is to bring items when they're ready to the commission, and I don't think any of these items are slated or ready to be presented at the next month.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Although sometimes the bundling of items for one meeting really backfires, and we've been here for like 3 hours. So, but I understand the ebb and flow of our schedule. So moving on to item number 10, Traffic Commission comments and discussion. Are there any general comments or discussion from the commissioners on anything at all, traffic related? Commissioner Guerra.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, with the crossing guard situation, I hope that you take a look at Arbalest and Plantas and really look at whether or not you can still keep a crossing guard there. I know that we've already discussed it. I know that you've already made the report, and I know all of that. But given the fact that we now know more information, that that's a very, very busy intersection, and you want to put that's the top traffic light priority, I think I would hope that you could come back and look at it and give it another look. That's it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. So now moving on to item number 11, our future meetings. We're going to revisit the schedule over the next couple months and consider canceling the July 23rd, 2025 meeting. And also acknowledge that city committees, commissions, and boards are dark, and typically dark in July and August. So that would mean that our next meeting would be on September 24th of this year. Do we need any discussion on that particular item?
I just want to say I agree with Commissioner Guerra that, we're here for a reason, and these are items I really want to hear too. I'm really excited about the ATP, but as someone who also plans meetings, I understand that there's logistics that we're not aware of how that works and when staff is ready to present on things and consultants. So just want you to know we're chomping at the bit. We're eager to hear these items, but I understand if they need to be delayed to September. And I appreciate you pointing out, Nader, the summer, fall. So thank you.
Okay, so do we need further discussion or do we have a motion? I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we cancel our meeting in July and in August, and that our next regularly scheduled meeting will be on September 24th, 2025. Ms. Vasquez, do we need a second on that motion, or can we take a vote? Okay. So I so move. Ms. Vasquez, can you take the vote on that?
Okay. Vice Chair ML,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerra,
Yes.
Commissioner Selm,
Yes.
Commissioner Weichel. Motion carries 4-0 with Chair Callahan absent.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for your time this evening. I think that's going to do it for us, and we're now going to adjourn this meeting of the TTAC, and we'll see everybody in September. Thank you.